Welcome back, Pokemon fans. Angel of the Night 091 here. We are back again with some more Pokemon-related content. Now, as you guys know, I have been uploading Wi-Fi battles for generations. I have been uploading since Generation 4 with this YouTube channel, and prior to that, I had been making Pokemon-related Let's Plays. One thing that I have not done over my vast time in the Pokemon community is join a draft league. And that's exactly what we did here. We actually ended up joining what's known as the Inkay Games. You might know the Malamar Games, but this is the Inkay Games. It's kind of like, you know, the child group of the Inkay Games. It's like the sibling to Malamar Games. But this one here is put together by A-Swizzle-Dizzle, and we were told that we had to come up with some team names. So, guys, I'm going to introduce you guys to the Valhalla Claws. I thought to myself, you know what, I can't go in as Angel of the Night, and everyone's going to expect me to choose Regigigas. So what I ended up doing is I ended up choosing the team name Valhalla Claws because of Berserker. And you guys know why I chose Berserker as our mascot? Well, it's the only cool Pokemon with a beard. Prove me wrong. Alright, so today we're going to be getting into our very first battle here versus Tom Hayden. And you guys might know Tom Hayden from some other VGC groups as well as some other draft leagues. Apparently he's a coach to my rival Hef Nasty. That's pretty neat. But our battle here today is based on the Cool Colors theme. Now, if you guys don't know what that means, it means that we're using Pokemon that are in the color of blue, green, and purple. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, what happens if the shiny form is blue, or purple, or green? Can we use the shiny form? Absolutely not. There is a list of Pokemon that I'll provide you guys in the link below, where you guys can see what Pokemon are classified as a specific color. These colors actually come from Bulbapedia. So, for example, one that you're going to probably take a look at is probably Hawlucha. Hawlucha is a combination of greens and reds, and it's actually categorized as a green Pokemon, which is kind of interesting. So we're going to get into that here just momentarily. But we are going to go over the team that we have chosen for our very first battle here, and let's take a look at your Valhalla Claws. So we've got ourselves a Politoed, an Iron Leaves, an Indeedee, Hawlucha, Hisuian Goodra, and of course, Basculegion. Now let's take a look here at the team. So we're going to actually start off here with Politoed. Now, of course, Politoed is considered a green Pokemon. Now, I verified before that I could use a shiny Politoed. It doesn't change anything, but it is in the category of green. Now, if we take a look here, my Politoed, the idea behind this team, we're going to be looking at such things like Psychic Surge, and then we're going to be using things such as like Rain Dance in order to basically perform with our team. And that is one reason why we have our Politoed here, because of the Drizzle ability, and of course, the Damp Rock. The Damp Rock is actually going to extend the Drizzle a lot further beyond 5 turns. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it goes up to a maximum of 8, maybe? But yeah, we're going to be using Politoed here. Now, I've had a couple different variations here of the Politoed as we went through the tournament, or through the match. Basically, in the team prep, we originally started off with a Muddy Water, Hyper Voice, and an Ice Beam Politoed. Now, if you guys know me, I'm very well aware of how to use certain kinds of Pokemon just because of my previous battle experiences. I used to battle with Pokemon in like all the NFEs and underused Pokemon and a lot of things like that. So we ended up knowing how to use Politoed for an offensive team. However, I've never really used it more as a support Pokemon. Now, I would just want to give a couple of shout outs here. I just want to say shout out to Inkay Gaming. I want to say Avidov and Hef Nasty. I just want to say thank you guys, because you know what? This team came together and I basically put it in front of you guys all to kind of analyze, to kind of make sure that my mind was set. And you know what? I just want to show you guys that you guys are fantastic support, and I appreciate all the help you guys provided with me to basically build this team. So guys, I kind of put this all in place with some help with some friends. This team would not be possible without the actual help and the conversations that I had with them. But Politoed, of course, I ended up started going with the Hyper Voice of the Ice Beam, and you know what, the Ice Beam and the Hyper Voice didn't really do much for me. So we ended up changing that to the Icy Wind, and we added Hypnosis. Now you're probably thinking, Corey, why are you not going with Chilling Water? Well, I kind of like the accuracy drop of Muddy Waters, so that's kind of why I stayed there. Politoed's, you know, not too bad in speed, but it does have some pretty wicked defense, so I know that I'm going to be able to get some Hypnosises off at some point. We added Protect into there as well because, quite frankly, I'm not big on Protect. I've never really been big on protecting my team. And, you know, as I was going through with some practice matches, I was like, you know what? I've got to add Protect onto this team because, quite frankly, that's how VGC is done. Everybody likes to scout things. So we added Protect onto the Politoed. Next up, we've got ourselves an Iron Leaves. Now, Iron Leaves, of course, I ended up putting the Terra type of Fairy. I wanted to be able to resist any kind of fire type moves that come in, if there is, in fact, any fire Pokemon that are on the opposing team. But we ended up putting the booster energy onto it here. And then, of course, with the Quirk Drive, it actually ends up boosting up his speed, which is pretty fantastic. Plus, as well, with that NDD pairing later on, it actually does do a little bit of a boost with some psychic powers. So we actually have here, we have Protect, we have Swords Dance, we have the Leaf Blade, and the Psyblade. The biggest idea behind the Iron Leaves is I wanted to be able to have speed and attack. And the fact that we already had on the team a Psychic Surge, it just kind of helps boost things up a little bit there with that attack stat. Now, the whole idea behind the Iron Leaves is we wanted to go for the Swords Dance and kind of like a Follow Me redirect with the Indeedee, so that way we can get the boost in the Swords Dance. And then, of course, we just go through and try to steamroll our opponent. Honestly, with the Iron Leaves, I've never used one before, so I wasn't really sure how to really use it. So I did have some assistance there with Smogon. I did analyze Smogon a little bit, and I determined this is probably the best set. The stats, of course, will be in the description below if you guys wanted to try out this team. I've got a rental code there for you. I've got a Pokepaste there for you. Be sure to check them out. Next up, we've got ourselves our Indeedee. Now, if you guys are prone to VGC, or even like ranked doubles or anything like that, you guys know you're going to see Indeedee quite a bit. And that's mainly because of the whole Psychic Surge Follow Me scenario. And this Indeedee is the same similar idea. We've got the Rocky Helmet onto it there in case it gets any kind of physical damage. It is going to take the hit, and then of course it is also going to dish out some damage back to our opponent. We've got the Follow Me, of course, in the Helping Hand with the Dazzling Gleam and the Protect. Now, we decided to stay as Terra Normal. I had no intentions of Terra changing my Indeedee at all during any of these matches. It's just not really that necessary to perform when you see my next Pokemon. Now, if we take a look here at this Pokemon, we've got Hawlucha here. And as I was saying earlier, if you take a look at him, the first instinct is, man, that Pokemon is red. Nope, it's in the Bulbapedia site as a green Pokemon, mainly because of the feathers under its arms. So that's kind of why we're using it here. Its mask is also kind of like a green. It's kind of like a teal blue almost. But we are using Hawlucha here. Now, if you guys have seen Hawlucha recently, if you pair it up with something that has like a Psychic Surge and then give it like the Psychic Seed, it actually gets the ability of Unburden. Now, what that means is that when you actually use your item, it ends up boosting his speed stat. And that's exactly what we wanted to go for here. We wanted to go for the attack and the speed. We decided to stay with Adamant. So that's exactly what we have here. And, you know, that basically puts our attack at like 311 at level 100. Our speed, of course, is 335. We are max speed in this situation. And, of course, you know, with the whole Unburden scenario, once we use that Psychic Seed, it actually boosts up our special defensive stat, which is pretty fantastic. We're going to need that later on. And as we do some battles, you're actually going to see that that special defense boost actually ends up helping us out. Now, when we look at the moves, the big moves here onto this team is mostly the acrobatics and the close combat. Now, you're going to see Throat Chop there, and the whole reason I went with the whole Throat Chop is because of all of the Ghost-type Pokemon that are running around the list of blue, green, and purple. such as like Gengars and Chandelures and Sableyes and all that good stuff. I actually ended up spending quite a bit of time practicing this team. I ended up practicing it for like 4 days straight in Regulation G, and Throat Chop came in quite handy. Now, of course, you know, a lot of the threats in Reg G are not in this, but this is quite helpful. Okay, we are going into the next Pokemon here, Hisuian Goodra. Now, the reason I have the whole Hisuian Goodra, of course, I wanted to have something that had some decent resistances. And that's exactly what this Goodra provides. There is a lot of typings that it resists, and it actually is more beneficial to use this over the standard Goodra. Now, one thing that I'm going to say here is that with the whole Goodra scenario, we wanted to basically have an Assault Vest Pokemon. We wanted to be able to boost up some special defense stats as we go along here, and that's what this Pokemon does. If we take a look at the actual moves, we ended up having it as being like a full attacking Pokemon, just because it has pretty much every kind of coverage that we're going to need. The biggest one's the Flash Cannon for those Fairy-type Pokemon. We've got the Sludge Bomb and the Flamethrower for those Grass types, and of course we've got the Dragon Pulse for those Dragons. And with the fact that we can actually go for the Terra typing of Steel, we can actually resist a lot of those Dragon moves right off the bat. So the biggest reason why I have this here is the Fairy types, and the number one Pokemon that is the biggest threat on that list was actually Dragapult. Believe it or not, Dragapult had the most speed and the most attack stat combination, and it was like the biggest threat. So I was like, how am I going to resist this thing? So Goodra was definitely the choice there. Same thing as well with Rillaboom. You know, you're going to see the grassy terrain, and then you're going to see like grassy slide, and that's kind of why we have the Sap Sipper there. We wanted to be able to take that hit without actually taking that hit. So Goodra was the choice here. And then last but not least, we have our Basquilegion. Now, Basquilegion, of course, the male form was on the list, and we decided to pair that up nicely with the Life Orb and Swift Swim ability. We've got the Wave Crash, the Last Respects, Aqua Jet, and Protect. Now, the reason why we kept the Aqua Jet on there is just in case that Rillaboom came in with, like, grassy terrain and ended up not going for, like, you know, the whole grassy glide, we'd be able to hit the opponent with the Aqua Jet. But because we have the Psychic Surge, it actually kind of restricts the whole use of priority-based moves. But the Swift Swim definitely makes up for that, for sure. But we are, of course, the max attack there as well. But that is the team there. So we've actually got Terra Grass onto Basquilegion. We've got Steel on Goodra. Hawlucha is just a fighting type for terrestrialization. We've got Indeedee with normal because obviously we didn't want to do the Terra change. Iron Leaves, we got Fairy. We wanted to be able to resist a few things, especially Dark-type Pokemon. There was a couple of Dark-type Pokemon on that list that I was like, you know what, we're going to see that. We're going to see some knockoffs. So just in case we actually ended up seeing that, we have the Terra Fairy. And then, of course, we just stayed with the Terra Water with the Politoed. Now, without further ado, guys, I know that was a little bit of a lengthy intro there. Hopefully you guys found the timestamps in the description to bypass that. But we are going to jump into the battles here, and let's get match number 1 going. All right, guys, so here we go. We're getting into battle number 1 here versus Tom Hayden. Now, if we take a look at our team here, we are seeing Glaceon, Ninetales. There is a Glimmora, Baxcalibur, Comfey, and a Rillaboom. Now, the battle itself is a closed team sheet, but has open Terra types. So we actually have to inform our opponent here what our Terra types are, and that's something that we did before the battles. So that was one of the biggest rules there. Now the battles, of course, are VGC style, so it's a double battle, and it's best of 3. So basically meaning if you win 2 matches, you actually win the set. If you win a battle but lose a battle, you have to go into game number 3, if you guys aren't familiar with how that works. The Terra types of Tom's team, his Ninetales is a Ghost type. Glaceon, of course, is an Ice type. Glimmora is a Grass type. Baxcalibur is an Electric type. Comfey Steel, and Rillaboom Fire. The biggest thing here that I actually am a little bit surprised on here is the Baxcalibur being electric. I'm not really sure why Terra Electric would be the choice. I usually see them as fire or poison, but that's besides the point. So we actually take a look here. He's going to lead off here with his Glimmora and his Baxcalibur. And of course, we're going to lead off here with our Indeedee and our Hawlucha. So with that being said, we set up the Psychic Surge, which is actually going to activate the Psychic Seed, which is going to then boost up our special defensive stats. Now, because of this, because we've used that item, it actually allows us to boost up our speed because of the Burden ability. Now, the first thing we're doing here is we're actually going to go in for the Terra Change of Fighting, and then we're going to go right in and focus onto the Baxcalibur. And the reason why we're focusing on Baxcalibur is because that is the biggest threatening Pokemon that he has out right now. And that's something that we just need to take care of. We're hoping that he's not going to go for any kind of a Terra Change here, which thankfully he does not, or he would have been able to resist the electric typing a lot, or resist the fighting type move a lot more. So we actually end up going for the Helping Hand here, which is actually going to raise the possibility of crits, and we actually end up getting the close combat and knocking out his Baxcalibur. So that is the very first Pokemon onto his team that we actually end up knocking out in match number 1. And you know what? That takes a huge weight off my shoulders because of that whole Baxcalibur being banned in Smogon. It's kind of one of those things that everybody's a little bit cautious of. Now, of course, here we see a Power Herb Meteor Beam Glamora. That's a very common set that you're going to see in the whole VGC or into the Smogon scenario. So he actually manages to get off an impressive hit onto the Hawlucha here, and luckily for us, we actually did get that special defensive boost, which actually is allowing us to survive that hit. He's now going to come in with his Ninetales here, and of course he's got the Terra typing of Ghost. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, am I going to go for the close combat here, or am I going to go for the acrobatics and play it safe? Because quite frankly, if he does go for the Ghost Terra change, that could be a big problem. So I'm going to go in for the Helping Hand here. Helping Hand, of course, is just going to raise us that possibility of increasing our attack power or even getting a crit to basically provide us that ability to have max damage. So we end up getting another close combat off here, and we actually end up knocking out the Ninetales, which is quite a big deal as well. One thing that I noticed that he didn't happen to have any kind of a hail come on up. So I think that he probably didn't have the right ability onto his Ninetales when we were doing the battle here, and later it was confirmed that he did not have his proper ability onto his Ninetales. So we actually end up losing our Hawlucha here, and you know what, that's okay, because quite frankly, he did an impressive amount of damage onto the opposing team on Tom's side, and I can't really complain about that. Hawlucha is one of those Pokemon that it's not something that I normally would think of using, but at the same time, I've heard so much about it that you just have to use it. So in comes the Glaceon here now. Now with Glaceon onto the field, of course, that is going to be a massive specialty defensive Pokemon. We've got two Pokemon out right now. We've got our Politoed, we've got our Indeedee. Both Pokemon are special attackers. They have no physical attacks whatsoever. Now, we did activate the Rain here, and with the Rain Dance up, of course, that's going to allow us to bring in Basculegion later on in the battle if it comes down to it. So we're just kind of waiting out here for Tom to make his decision here onto his moves. And as you guys know, at this time, we're actually doing some post-commentaries, so this is not my actual impression as the battle is live. But I'm going to tell you guys something. My heart was beating like there was no tomorrow. I was nervous, my heart was beating. I hadn't been in a public eye for Wi-Fi battles in quite some time, since 2015, 2016, when I was actually a streamer for quite some time. And this battle had all of the emotions into it. So we actually managed to take a Sludge Bomb with the Indeedee there. We actually survived the hit, which is thankfully awesome. I'm really glad that Indeedee was here with the whole Follow Me scenario, or that Freeze Dry would have been huge damage onto that Politoed. So we actually have one final Pokemon for battle number 1. We're going to bring in Basculegion. Now, of course, right now, as it is, that Glamora being a Terra Grass type, pretty much the only move that I have that can take that thing is going to be the Last Respects. And as you guys know, Last Respects is actually Basculegion's strongest move. And it actually works a lot better the more Pokemon that you have out of your team. So basically Pokemon that have fainted, you actually get the attack boost. So we actually end up getting the Last Respects. Glamora goes down, which is awesome. However, it does set up that whole Toxic Debris thing. A little bit late in the game at this point for that. Doesn't really do much there. So we end up getting one more Pokemon knocked out onto Tom's side. We end up going for the Hypnosis. And that's something that my buddy Hef Nasty suggested. He suggested that we actually end up putting Hypnosis onto Politoed. And I'm going to be honest with you, I usually run Hypnosis on these things. But for this tournament, I was like, you know what, I really want to use something different but it's really hard to argue the whole Hypnosis side of things. Hypnosis is just one of those moves that's just going to help us out in the long run. We end up going in for the Protect here because, quite frankly, I don't want to get hit by a Freeze Dry. I decided to try to go for the Hypnosis here again, and of course it ended up failing. Freeze Dry, of course, doesn't make contact with the Basculegion because we went it for the Protect. And then, of course, now the weirdness from the battlefield actually disappears. So now we're actually capable of going for the Last Respects, and we're going to go for another Hypnosis here, just in case we don't actually take out this Glaceon. But Tom decides, you know what, man, you can do Protect, I'm going to do Protect. So he ends up protecting his Glaceon, doesn't get hit by the Last Respects, and it's kind of like trying to wait out the whole Rain Dance scenario here, trying to wait out the rain. Of course, Last Respects can't do much. We are down into the red zone. One Freeze Dry, that's going to end the Basculegion. So we're really hoping to get this Last Respects off, and this Glaceon actually has enough defensive stats that it's actually able to survive that Last Respects move. Luckily for us, we actually managed to hit with a Hypnosis. Hypnosis isn't a guarantee by any means, but it just kind of helps out if you needed it. Realistically, I could have probably gone for like the Muddy Water here and probably would have been able to end the Glaceon, but it just kind of makes the whole match that much sweeter with the whole Hypnosis, and then of course the attack that's not Last Respects from the Basculegion. So that is the very first round. So we actually managed to get one win onto our side. We end up losing the Basculegion, of course, due to the whole Life Orb damage. But that's okay. So, good game for sure. That battle had me so pumped, so excited. I'm really glad that the whole Psychic Surge and Indeedee scenario with the Hawlucha actually managed to work out so well as it did. Like I said, guys, I actually managed to build this team last Friday, and I ended up practicing this team basically for 4 days straight. We had this battle on Monday at 8 o'clock, and I'm going to be honest with you, I was so excited for it, and I'm really glad I didn't record my live commentary because I was quite all over the place with what I was saying. Like, I was like, oh man, no, don't do this, like, yes, I was like, yeah, like this is awesome, right? And I was just super excited. So the emotions were just running wild there. So here we go, going into round number 2. And of course, if we win this battle, then we win the actual set. So we actually lock in our Pokemon here. I decided that I was going to go with the exact same team as I did the last time. Hawlucha, Indeedee, Politoed, and Basculegion. Now, one thing about VGC is that's kind of nice is that there's the best of 3. So if you do end up making a mistake, you actually get another chance to actually kind of make up for that. And with the fact that you're only choosing 4 out of your 6 Pokemon to actually battle with, you never know exactly what kind of combination your opponent is actually going to come up with. And that's kind of what Tom's doing here. He's kind of basically thinking out, okay, what is the best possible choice here for this team? Now, one thing that I'm going to say with Tom's team is I kind of expected Rillaboom. Rillaboom is one of those Pokemon that's very common in VGC right now. It's been common ever since Regulation E or F, I think it is. And it's just running wild in Regulation G right now, especially when you're looking at like Smogon related battles, such as like OU tier or Ubers or whatnot. People are still using Rillaboom, and it's basically due to the whole Grassy Surge and Grassy Slide. Plus as well with the capability of the Grassy Seed coming into play, basically boosting up like defensive stats on Pokemon. It's quite helpful, especially in your competitive matches. I've used Rillaboom quite a bit, and quite frankly, I just couldn't use it this round. I had to use something completely different. So here we are. We're getting into battle number 2. And we're going to take a look here to see what he brings with him in this battle. So here we are. We're in the schoolyard. He's going to bring in his Ninetales and his Glimmora. And of course, we're starting off here with our Hawlucha and our Indeedee. All right. Getting that Psychic Surge set up here. And of course, we are also going to get that boost there from our Psychic Seed. We're also going to get our Unburden activated as well. That's actually going to allow us to increase our speed. So right off the bat, I'm thinking to myself, okay, Ninetales is going to be a big problem. Now, in this battle, I actually didn't even think about the whole Hail scenario. I was thinking more, okay, he's probably got Aura Veil, And he was going to set up Aura Veil to boost up some stats. But of course, without the hail, he can't really do that here. So I'm kind of like, eh. I mean, realistically, if I take a look at it, was Ninetales really the biggest threat? Glimmora is kind of one of those Pokemon that's like, okay, if I don't take this thing out, this thing could also be a problem. But we are actually going to go for the Helping Hand here. We're going to boost up our attack. We're going to go for the Acrobatics. Now, if we went for the Close Combat, of course, it's not really going to do much, but I was more worried about staying a Flying type for the whole Glimmora, just in case it ended up having like some sort of like a Rock type move. I didn't want to get destroyed by a Glimmora, okay? So here we go. We get the special attack boost onto the Glimmora because of the whole Power Herb scenario. So the fact that we already had the special defense boost with the Hawlucha, that's huge, because I'm pretty sure without that, Hawlucha would not survive. Now, the next Pokemon coming out here is going to be Tom's Rillaboom. It's going to set up the Grassy Surge, and of course that takes away the whole Psychic Surge scenario, so I mean, really not that big of a deal here, but we do know that Grassy Slide is going to come into play. I'm pretty much debating on the whole Follow Me scenario, but I'm like, you know what? I don't really know if that's what he's going to do. He might have Fake Out onto his Rillaboom. I know with Rillaboom, I usually run Fake Out, so that's kind of a thing that I like to do. With that being said, we ended up going for the Protect here. We wanted to scout out exactly what his Rillaboom was going to be able to do. And like I said, I really thought it was going to be a Fake Out. But he ends up going to go for the Grassy Slide. Now, that would have actually probably taken Hawlucha at that time, because he's no longer the Flying type. Glimmora, of course, going in for the Sludge Bomb here. We are protecting, so we take absolutely no damage whatsoever. And of course, we're going to get a little bit of HP back from the whole grassy terrain. So now that we know he's going to go for the Grassy Slide, I decide, you know what, I'm going to do the whole Follow Me scenario, and we're going to go in for the Acrobatics onto the Rillaboom. But here we have it, he's going to go for his Terra Fire. And of course, that's going to allow him to resist the whole Acrobatics. And that's okay. I mean, you can't really do much there in that scenario. You basically have to try to figure out ways to kind of counter it. But the biggest issue right now is that whole grassy terrain. And you know what, I'm going to be honest with you, I should have probably maybe swapped out Indeedee, so that way I could swap him in again to kind of take care of the whole terrain situation. Because the whole Grassy Glide is not good whatsoever for the whole Politoed and Basculegion setup that I've got in the back. So he ends up taking out the Indeedee here. And now we're kind of forced, okay, to bring in Politoed or Basculegion. Obviously, Basculegion would not have been the best choice because of the scenario of no rain. Without the rain, he's a very slow Pokemon. Plus, with the grassy terrain setup, that Rillaboom's just going to go in and Grassy Slide and just knock him out. So I'm kind of going to go for the attack here. I kind of want to try to take out that Rillaboom the best that I can. Rillaboom is definitely the biggest threat right now because of the whole grassy terrain. Okay, we're just waiting for our opponent here to choose their move. Okay, he's going to end up recalling his Rillaboom here. And he's going to go out to his next Pokemon, which is actually Comfey. Now, Comfey, of course, is I believe it's a Fairy Grass type. But it does have the possibility of going to Terra Steel here. We end up going for the Protect because I was predicting like a Grassy Slide. Not necessarily the case, and I ended up going in for the Acrobatics onto the Comfey. Sorry, not Acrobatics, Close Combat, because I was hoping that the Close Combat was going to be enough to be able to take that Rillaboom, but because of the whole swap in there, we actually drop our special defense, and of course we get taken out by a Sludge Bomb from the Glimmora. So now we actually have to come in with our Basculegion here, and that's kind of a problem, because quite frankly, that whole grassy terrain is just not a good situation, not a good setup. He does have Comfey out, he does have Glimmora, but the biggest threat is in behind, which is that Rillaboom. Okay, so we are going to go in for the Wave Crash, hopefully onto the Glimmora. And of course he decides to predict that. He goes for the Spiky Shield, and of course the Spiky Shield is actually going to give us damage, because we've decided to go in for the attack here. And that's okay, I mean, not much we can really do there. It doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. We do manage to get the Hypnosis off onto the Comfey, which is cool. Now, the reason why I went for the Hypnosis is I was thinking, okay, maybe his Comfey has like a Grass-type move. I don't think that's the case. but we do get the Hypnosis. I was thinking, okay, am I going to go for the Icy Wind, or am I going to go for the Hypnosis here? I did predict, kind of try to predict the whole Rillaboom coming back in. Didn't really happen. This match, honestly, like, I was completely thrown for a loop when he took the Rillaboom out, and by the time that I already had Basculegion in and the Grassy Surge currently up the Grassy Terrain, I was completely thrown off. I was like, oh gosh, okay, like, I have to do something to try to take this Rillaboom before it comes in after me. And that's kind of why you're seeing Hypnosises and Icy Winds. I was really hoping that the Rillaboom is going to come back in at the right swap to get the Hypnosis or the Icy Wind to lower the speed, and maybe try to outspeed with the with the Swift Swimming Basculegion. Not the case. We do manage to get the Glimmar out, though, so it's not that bad of a situation, but it's still kind of bad. We could technically go for the whole Aqua Jet here. We decided on the Muddy Water to be able to hit on both of them. I thought maybe of going for Protect at last minute. I was thinking, okay, well, can I maybe outspeed and try to get the Aqua Jet and maybe take out the Rillaboom? But I know that the whole Grassy Surge, or not Grassy Surge, Grassy Glide was going to come by. So I decided to Protect here. We basically received no damage from that whatsoever. I was hoping at least maybe Muddy Water would actually knock out the Rillaboom, but we actually managed to miss him. Muddy Water is by no means 100% accurate, but it would have been awesome if we actually managed to get that Rillaboom here. He does manage to get a Citrus Berry activated here and gets a little bit of health back. He does have the Grassy Surge up, which he does get health back as well, along with my Basculegion, which is awesome. By the way, we're going to go for the Muddy Water. And then, of course, I'm thinking to myself, okay, either Aqua Jet or Last Respects. Pretty much have to decide here, okay, what's really going to be able to do the damage here? If I actually do manage to get him, maybe he might go for the Politoed. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to bypass the whole Aqua Jet scenario. I'm going to go for the Last Respects here. Okay, there we go, the Grassy Glide, exactly what I thought was going to happen at some point. Basculegion's down, and this pretty much defines a win on his side. There's really not much that I can do with Politoed. As you guys can see here, the Rillaboom does survive. He is getting a little bit of health there back with the Grassy Surge. And then with the way that Comfey is, he is going to get the Floral Healing. So there's really not a whole lot that I can do with the whole Muddy Water situation. I can't really outspeed the Rillaboom, mainly due to the Grassy Slide. I might have been able to go for the Protect here and maybe wait out the whole Grassy Surge. But I just decided to try to get some damage off the best that I can. We do survive at least one Grassy Glide here. That's basically due to the whole defensive stats of the Politoed. We do get an accuracy drop here, which is pretty fantastic. And, of course, we are all receiving some health regains here. Now, again, at this time, I'm thinking, okay, Protect or Muddy Water? Protect, Muddy Water. Maybe I should try Hypnosis. Hypnosis would be cool. But, you know what? There's really nothing that can be done. Honestly, Tom played this very well. He waited for the opportune time to recall his Rillaboom. He made the right call, and it actually paid off for him later on in this battle. So, kudos to Tom Hayden. GG, man. This match completely threw me for a loop. I was not expecting you to withdraw when you did, and I wasn't expecting you to bring it back in when you did either. So that is battle number 2. So right now we each have a win on both sides. The next battle will determine the fate of the entire match. Okay? So at this time I'm thinking to myself, okay, the biggest threat on that team is not the Baxcalibur, which I thought at the very beginning. The biggest threat is actually the Rillaboom. Now what do we have for Rillaboom? We actually have Goodra, and we also have Iron Leaves. So what I actually end up doing here, I'm actually thinking about maybe bringing Iron Leaves and Goodra in the event that his Rillaboom is going to play basically play a bigger part in the battle. Okay, as you guys can see, I'm choosing different music here. I didn't want to have the music being the same for the entire match. But we're going to lead off here exactly the same because, quite frankly, Hawlucha does the most damage on this team. And as you can see, I'm kind of pondering, okay, what are my options here? Politoed and Basco Legion obviously are not the right choice, especially when Rillaboom's involved. And I thought maybe swapping it up here would actually kind of throw Tom off a little bit, especially with the fact that I have those grass typings. With the Sap Sipper on the Goodra, I could actually end up maybe swapping him in to take a hit from the Rillaboom at the opportune time. So I know for a fact I'm going to see the Glimmora. I'm thinking I'm going to see Rillaboom. Comfey might also be a scenario there as well. The fourth Pokemon is kind of like the wild card. So we're actually going into battle number 3 here, guys. This is the last and final battle of the Cool Colors match. He's going to lead off here with the Ninetales and the Comfey. And of course, I'm leading off here with the Indeedee and the Hawlucha. Now, of course, like all the battles prior, Psychic Surge is now activated. And we do activate our Psychic Seed, which boosts our special defense and also activates our Unburden ability, boosting up our speed. So we do see Ninetales, we do see Comfey. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I don't know if he's going to swap out or if he's going to stay in. Maybe he has, you know, some sort of priority move with the Ninetales. I don't really know what to expect, but I do know for a fact that the last time I faced him, I was able to do a Helping Hand and take it out with the Acrobatics. And that's exactly what we set up here. We want to get that Ninetales out there as fast as possible, but also as well, I have to think about the situation with the whole Comfey. That floral healing is a big issue. I do not want my opponent to regain as much health back every turn as I'm dishing, so I do have to think about the Comfey at some point here in this battle. So we actually managed to take out the Ninetales, and this is where I'm thrown again for another loop. Trick Room just got activated. So the dimensions are twisted, fast Pokemon are slow, slow Pokemon are fast, and in comes the GOAT, Baxcalibur. As you guys know, Baxcalibur is a favorite Pokemon of mine. It is a Dragon-type Pokemon. I love Dragon-type Pokemon. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I really need to get this thing taken care of. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to have to do the whole redirect here with the Follow Me. And then I'm going to go in and activate my Terra Fighting and go for the close combat. That is the only way I can foresee taking Baxcalibur out under a Trick Room. Because quite frankly, Baxcalibur should be faster in this situation because of how fast my Hawlucha is. So he withdraws the Comfey, he's going in with the Rillaboom, the big bad of the battle, activates the Grassy Surge, and that just gives him the capability of doing his priority move of Grassy Glide. Here we go, we're going in and activating our Terra Fighting on our Hawlucha. Now I know you guys are thinking, Corey, you know, you got a lot of other Pokemon there. Why are you activating Terra Fighting on Hawlucha? And that's just because I want to get the most damage possible, guys. This Baxcalibur has to go. It is a big threat, especially if it has the loaded dice. It's going to be able to hit this Icicle Spear in 5 turns. Guaranteed. Now, the cool thing with the whole Indeedee setup here that I have with the effort values that I do, it does manage to survive this big threat Pokemon, which is fantastic, and lives to see another day. So we're actually going to activate the max amount of damage possible and get this Baxcalibur out of here. So right now off the bat, we know we got Ninetales out, we've got Baxcalibur out. We are basically in the situation we were at the last turn, but with Trick Room. And that is the good setup that we have here now with the Goodra. The Goodra is a very slow Pokemon, plus as well with the Sap Sipper, it's not going to take any damage from that Rillaboom, unless it has things like Knockoff or some other type of move. Okay, there's the Draining Kiss coming in from the Comfey, and of course with the Draining Kiss, it does steal quite a lot of my health. We are going to activate the Follow Me, and the Grassy Glide is going to go into the Indeedee, knocking out our Indeedee. Our lead Pokemon, our Escape Goat, but you know what that does? That allows us to now go for the Acrobatics onto the Rillaboom, and we've just secured the KO. So the only Pokemon on Tom's side right now is the Comfey. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really know what Comfey can really do. I don't really see a whole lot of them. I've only seen them as being like the support Pokemon. So we're going to bring in Goodra here. We've got the Grassy Terrain up. We've got the Trick Room up. We've got Flash Cannon. I'm thinking to myself, Flash Cannon is probably the best option here to be able to try to take out the whole Comfey situation, being a whole Fairy-type Pokemon. But you know what? It actually manages to survive, which is actually kind of impressive. But we managed to get the special defense drop. And he is also going to activate a berry there to regain some health. It's citrus berry, of course. So we get the acrobatics here. We actually take him right down into the red zone, right down to the bare minimum of health. Halucha is still involved. We've still got Goodra. We've still got our Iron Leaves in the background. And this battle is going to be a win. So, ladies and gentlemen, your Valhalla Claus has just secured the final win. Alright guys, so that is the final battle in the Cool Colors match here we have in the Inkay Games. GG Tom, if I didn't say that already. And you know what? That is a 2-1 win for the Valhalla Claus. If you guys enjoyed the battle there today, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Post your comments in the comment section below. And as always, peace out.